And now we only have so-called Christian in government and in our churches, in different churches, who are just doing a song and a dance, but they have no power, they have no authority, they have no love, and as a result, we're losing the country. Christians are pathetic. Christians are some of the most pathetic people I've ever seen in my whole life. Growing up, I never imagined that Christians would become so weak, because Christians in the good old days, when boys were boys and men were men, they had no fear because they had love, the love of God. And they understood the order of God. They understood that men need to lead the way, and they would get involved in government. I remember Jerry Falwell and all those guys, they used to fight for the country. They got involved in the fight, and they were not afraid of the name calling or the rumors and things like that. So they fought back. But when they expired, all that disappeared. And now we only have so-called Christian in government and in our churches, in different churches, who are just doing a song and a dance, but they have no power, they have no authority, they have no love, and as a result, we're losing the country. Christians are pathetic, because if they were not, America would be, it would be amazing today. It would be better than 100 years ago or whatever, right? Because the power comes from God, and because the devil has no power, he has fear and doubt and worry. And so the Christians today have allowed the secular world to take over the churches. Women are becoming preachers and pastors and priests and all that crap. The Christian world is acting just like the secular world, because they truly don't believe in God. They just have a false image of themselves about God, but they don't know him.
Well, if we look back just over the last 30, 40 years, we can see these different gospels that came into play, like the prosperity gospel and this kind of thing, that really preached about materialism rather than about faith in God and, self-sacrifice towards things like your family and your community. It was more of a ask God what you want, and he'll give you whatever you want, whatever the materialism is. And hasn't Christianity now, modern Christianity, especially along Protestant lines, fallen into this trap of materialism? It's become a very material based, pray for what you want. And it really has nothing to do with what Christianity is about, which is wanting self-sacrifice for the most part.
That's right. And in the scriptures, it's clear that we don't need to pray for those things. God will take care of us. He said, take no thought about what you're going to wear, what you're going to eat, where you're going to live. I'll take care of those things. But you're right. These preachers, prosperity preachers, as you say, have been teaching materialism and how to ask God for a truck, for a car, for a house, for a wife, for a husband, for whatever.
Gimme.
Yeah.
Gimme.
Yeah. And it's just weakening them. It's taking them away from God. That's why I encourage all human beings to get on that straight and narrow path themselves, to know thyself, so that they can see the right way to go, because you're not supposed to have another physical leader anyway. God should only be your leader, to love him with all your heart, all your soul, all your might, along with nothing else. You must love him more than you love yourself, more than you love your children, your wife, your country, or anything. Then he will lead you, and you'll be able to stand and do the right thing, not only for your family, but for your country as well. I've had Christians tell me that you're not supposed to be in government, that Christians are not supposed to participate in government. And I'm like, how dumb can you be? That's one of the dumbest things I ever heard of. This country was founded by Christians, right? And our laws of the land came from the scriptures. They came from Christianity. And if you're not involved in government, you're going to get what we have now, the children of the devil running the government, and they're going to fight to destroy the Christians. They're not going to fight to enhance it, the Christians. They're going to fight against them. But Christians are so dumb, they think they're not supposed to get involved in government. I never heard anything like that in my life until I started hearing it over the last few years or so.
Well, it's very subversive, isn't it? As I've been looking into the subversive elements that go into these various church groups, I've actually found on things like LGBTQ groups, for instance, that they'll often go into these large mega ministries and offer them bags full of cash as part of their outreach programs in order to train and assist the various pastors and clergy of these churches and how to deal with LGBTQ patrons, often through affirmations, psychological gobbledygook, and this type of thing. Here's a bag of money for doing it as part of their outreach program. Isn't it complete subversion at this point, Jesse? Has the whole thing just been infiltrated from the inside out?
It really has. It is a mess. And when I compare America to the time that I was growing up, with what's happening now, it's just hard to believe it. I never imagined that one day that LGBTQ mess would take over Christianity. It just didn't seem like it was possible. We knew not to hate, but we knew not to accept a wrong as a right, but not to hate, right? And I never imagined that it would come to this. I never imagined that one day the preacher would be teaching about materialism rather than salvation itself, that we must be born of the Father. And all human beings, male or female, it doesn't matter the color, how rich or poor, every person who is born must be born of the Father. They are born of the woman, right? All who are born of the woman are dying, and those who are born of God are living. And so and they used to teach that growing up. We must be born of the Father. But now they're trying to encourage you to be born of the woman. They're saying the woman is fine, nothing wrong with emotional. You should be emotional. You should be this or that. I never imagined that would be taught in a church anywhere. I never imagined that radical Black Lives Matter and others could go to a church and promote what they're doing, and people go, Black Power, Black Lives Matter, all that kind of crap, right? It's the darndest thing I ever seen in my life. I just didn't, when you're growing up, when I was in the good old days, you just didn't walk around thinking, well, one day we're just not going to have America. One day the church would be no different than the secular society. One day women are going to take over the churches. You just never imagined that something like that was even possible because people had common sense then. But it's all gone now for the most part. You can find it one or two that's on that straight and narrow, but most people are not in the church and outside of the church. I never imagined one day that they would destroy the police department, that they would defund the cops, that they would say the cops are the bad guys and the bad guys are the good guys. I just know it doesn't.
They took over whole city blocks and declared them sovereign nations, Jesse.
Yeah, I know.
Have you ever seen or heard of anything so absurd in your life that you could take over, 13, 14 square blocks, declare it outside the realm of the United States? Isn't that high treason, sedition, at least?
Man, it's so insane that you wonder, is everybody on pot? Everybody must be.
They're smoking something, man. So I gotta ask you too. As you bring this up, I've often said on this program that the push for transgenderism is truly the fight for objective reality. Never could I have foreseen that people would be fighting over what the nature of a tree was.
Right.
And yet here we are, we're actually fighting over objective reality. What we can see, they're trying to tell us that what we can see with our own eyeballs isn't true. With our own sense data, with our own sense of smell, taste, touch, they're saying that's not real. That's truly 1984 style stuff there, isn't it?
It's crazy. And if you see it, they don't want you to say what you see. If you're not agreeing with them, they want you to just shut up about it, not even say anything about it. And but what most people might not realize, men are the most hated species on this side of heaven. All this LGBTQ and if you're a boy or a girl is only done because they want to destroy masculinity. They want to destroy the man, and they replace it with junk. What men don't realize is that men are sons of God. They may be weak beta males for now because they have been turned away from their fathers, but men are sons of God. They are the light of the world, and they represent God. And the enemy of God hate that. He hate anything that represents good, represent God. And so if they can take the fathers out of the home, they can degrade and embarrass and weaken the man. They could destroy him, put it out to light. It's about that. That's why men are so under attack. That's why they would rather for you to be a drag queen male, than a real man, because a drag queen man is weak. There's nothing he can do. He's been destroyed already. But it's all about destroying men and replacing it with the image of the devil, right? And so the God above is the man's God, and the God below is the woman's God. And so the hell come through the woman to destroy the children. And it's not, she can't help it. It's not her nature, it's the devil nature that made a home in her. And so women and drag queens and lesbian, they're all being used to destroy the image of God. Why do you think they went after Donald Trump and still going after him so hard? Because Donald Trump was a perfect example of masculinity, and they hated that. They couldn't control him. They couldn't put fear in him. He didn't care what you thought about him or said about him. And men in the good old days were that way. They were not soft, and they were not easily provoked to anger. They didn't care what you thought or said about them. And men today are being trained to be that way. And so this LGBTQ thing, calling yourself a it or that, or if you want to be a male, if you're a male, you can be a woman. You're a
they,
woman,
them gang. The
yeah.
they, them gang.
It's all about destroying masculinity. It's about destroying men. This whole thing, this whole battle of good and evil is about destroying the image of God that comes through the man. And that's why Christianity is the most hated religion on this side of heaven, because it's a perfect religion of what God is all about. You don't see them trying to destroy Allahu Akbar or any other kind of religion except Christianity, because it truly represents God when you're truly born of God.